My name is Leah Kim. I'm 31 now. 5 years ago, I left Seattle behind, and I never looked back. I was a back-end developer at a cybersecurity company that dealt with high-stakes clients, major banks, government agencies. I wasn't just part of the team, I was indispensable. I tackled problems other people couldn't even articulate. But once I clocked out, I might as well have vanished, at least to my family. We hadn't spoken since 2016. So when my phone lit up on a quiet October night in 2023 with a call from my cousin Rachel, I was completely caught off guard. She was the only one who had my new number. "Leah," she said gently, "your parents have been trying to contact you. They want you home for Christmas." I slowly lowered myself onto the edge of my small bed in my Brooklyn apartment.
"Now?"
I asked. "After everything?" "They've been asking around," she replied. They seemed genuine. I ended the call and sat in silence, staring at the wall. I hadn't let myself think about my family in so long, but suddenly the memories returned, sharp and fast. I'd always been the outsider, the overlooked one. I remembered being 13, curled up in a plastic chair, knees to my chest, as Dr. Patel told my parents, "Leah isn't struggling because she's isolated. She's struggling because she's invisible."
My mom had scoffed.
"We treat both kids the same," she insisted. But I knew she didn't believe that. Dylan, my older brother, was the golden child, star quarterback, student body president, everyone's favorite. He got a car at 16. I got a secondhand sweater that still smelled like someone else. Christmas mornings? His presence lit up the room. Mine were the ones that got lost behind the tree. But this year, for the first time, they wanted me back, and they had no idea who I was now. Family holidays were always miserable. Dylan, ever the center of attention, would captivate the room while I faded into the background. That's when I found something of my own coding. It started with a dusty flyer in the school hallway. Computer Science Club, room 27, Thursdays. I tried it once and never looked back.
Code made sense.
It was honest, logical. It saw me. That room became my sanctuary. We refurbished scrap computers, traded tech books, argued about syntax, and pulled late nights fixing each other's bugs. I even built my first game on a beat-up old laptop someone loaned me. One day, Mr. Alvarez, our teacher, pulled me aside. "You've got a gift, Leah," he told me. "Don't let anyone dim it." By 17, I was ready. I'd applied to college and was set on building a new life from the ground up. Meanwhile, Dylan was already at Stanford, fully funded by our parents. Then came that infamous Thanksgiving. My dad raised his glass.
"To Dylan," he said.
"You make us proud." The room applauded. My mom chimed in. "And Leah? We just want her to find a stable job." My uncle laughed. "We could use help at the diner. Dishwashers needed." The table roared. So did my parents. I didn't. What they didn't know. I had already secured a full scholarship to one of the best tech programs in New York, tuition, housing, even a stipend. I packed my things quietly and moved into a dorm in Manhattan. Worked part-time in restaurants, graduated at the top of my class, and got hired by a top cybersecurity firm before my diploma even arrived. 4 years later, I had just finished leading a massive integration project for a global bank. The bonus I earned? Enough to buy property. So I called an agent. Within days, I found it, a brownstone condo in Fort Greene. 2 bedrooms, sleek kitchen, exposed brick, near the park, exactly what I wanted. At 31, I became a homeowner. 2 weeks before Christmas, I threw a small housewarming. Just my circle, the ones who stayed up late debugging with me, who saw me through breakdowns and breakthroughs. We sat on floor cushions, eating Thai food, drinking cheap wine, laughing among the unpacked boxes. Lisa raised her glass. "To Leah," she said, "the quiet storm who turned silence into strength." We toasted. I smiled, but deep down, I couldn't stop thinking I was going back to Seattle. But not as the forgotten one. Not this time. The week before Christmas, I took time off work, wrapped thoughtful gifts, and drove the 6 hours back to my old neighborhood in North Seattle. The house looked tired, faded siding, tangled shrubs, and a porch light blinking weakly like it couldn't decide whether to stay on. My hands shook as I rang the bell. Footsteps approached. The door creaked open. "Leah," my mother whispered, stunned. "You really came." She gave me a stiff hug, barely touching me. "You look different." Inside, the scent hit me instantly. Stale air, worn wood polish, and that ever-present potpourri bowl that had probably been there since high school. The living room was full. Conversation stopped. All eyes turned toward me. "Well, look who finally showed up," someone muttered. "Is she seriously wearing sweatpants?" Another voice said. I looked down. Tailored black slacks, a sleek designer coat, quiet elegance that clearly went unnoticed here. Then Dylan stepped out of the kitchen, all smiles. "Everyone, meet Mia, my wife," he announced, resting a hand on her belly. "And our baby on the way." "Congratulations," I offered. He gave me that smug, effortless grin, like he still lived in some alternate reality where he was the star of everything. Laughter bubbled up around him. My jaw tightened. "I work in tech," I said, keeping my tone even. "If you've ever walked back into your past with more strength than they ever gave you credit for, keep reading. This is where things start to shift."
Tech.
Dylan scoffed. "What, like fixing Wi-Fi or answering help desk tickets?" He turned to Mia. Leah was always kind of odd. Probably working in some dark basement somewhere. I let a small smile play at the corner of my mouth. Something like that. Mom clapped her hands together. "Dinner's almost ready. Leah, drop your bags anywhere. Dylan's using your old room now, so you'll be on the couch." Naturally. Of course he was. And, of course I would be. The evening dragged on. One long drip of backhanded comments and condescension. Aunt Nora found me by the punch bowl, which looked as depressed as I felt. "Your brother's got big plans, starting his own company," she gushed. "Such a visionary. And you're still doing computer stuff?" "I develop software," I replied. She wrinkled her nose. "Well, somebody's got to handle the boring stuff." Later, Uncle Mike leaned in while I helped carry dishes. "We've still got a dishwasher opening at the diner," he said. "Honest work. Pays minimum wage." I gave a polite nod. "Thanks. I'm all set." At dinner, they seated me at the far end, next to the kitchen door, naturally. Dylan held court at the head, soaking in the attention. "This venture is going to shake up the whole market," he declared. "We just need the initial capital to launch." "How much?" Dad asked. 200,000 to start," Dylan said like he was asking for a sandwich. I nearly choked. It was every generic startup pitch I'd ever heard, and I'd heard plenty. "We'll make it work," Mom said, patting his hand. "Family helps family." After dinner, Mom handed me a blanket and pointed to the couch. Christmas morning arrived with Dylan and Mia bounding down the stairs like excited kids. The tree was buried in gifts. They eagerly tore into mine, items I'd chosen with care and taste. "Leah, these are lovely," Mom said, holding up her new designer bag. But when it was my turn, "Oh no," Mom gasped. "We forgot to get you something." Dylan let out a laugh. "Just like old times. Don't get all weepy again. You're grown now." Something inside me clicked, not sorrow, not rage. Just precision. "I'm not crying," I said quietly, reaching into my purse. "Actually, I bought myself something really nice this year." I held up my keychain. The brushed steel caught the glow of the Christmas lights. Mom squinted. "What's that?" "A key," I said. "To my new apartment. I closed last week." The room went still. Dad blinked. "You bought a place? With your own money?" "Yep," I said.
For my job.
One of the banks just licensed a cybersecurity framework I built. My portion of the deal? A solid bonus. Mom narrowed her eyes. "How much?" I shrugged lightly. $150,000. After taxes. The silence that followed could have cracked glass. Dylan stared, stunned. Mia blinked. My parents looked like I'd just told them I owned Mars. $150,000? Mom echoed, her voice rising. "That's real." "It's what I do," I said. "I design enterprise security systems. Big firms. Fortune 500 clients." Dad leaned forward. And how long have you been making that kind of money? Since I graduated. My income fluctuates with bonuses, but the base salary's been six figures for years. That was the moment the room flipped. Mom stood, her tone all warmth and wonder. Leah, why didn't you say something sooner? We're so proud. Dad nodded quickly. Dylan, did you hear that? Your sister works with Fortune 500 companies. Dylan's smile stiffened. Mia murmured something in his ear. Mom slid onto the couch beside me. So, tell us about your apartment. How many bedrooms? 2 bed, 2 bath. Fort Greene. Walking distance to the office. She beamed. We should come visit sometime. Families should stick together. I nearly laughed. Family? After 8 years of silence? Actually, I said as I rose to my feet, I've got a long drive ahead. Mom reached for my arm. You just got here. Can't you stay a little longer? Dad chimed in. We haven't even had a real conversation about your career. Upstairs, I packed in silence, but the murmurs drifted through the floorboards low, tense voices filled with urgency. When I returned with my suitcase, they were waiting at the bottom of the stairs, their smiles too wide, too rehearsed. Before you go, Dad began, stepping forward, we wanted to talk to you about Dylan's business. Right on cue, Dylan lit up like he was doing me a grand favor. It's a real opportunity, he said. You'd be getting in at the perfect time. How much are you asking for? I asked, my tone flat. Just 200,000, he replied, like it was pocket change. With what you earn, that's manageable, right? I looked at all of them, my parents, who laughed when someone offered me a dishwashing job, Dylan, who mocked me for years, Mia, who smirked over punch. No, I said simply. Their faces dropped like a curtain falling. What do you mean, no? Mom's voice sharpened. I mean, I'm not funding your business, I said. But we're family, Dad replied, as though that word still meant something. I crossed my arms. Where was family when you told me to move out right after high school? When you funded Dylan's tuition and left me to fend for myself? That was a different time, Mom snapped. We didn't have the money back then. You had it for Dylan, I said. Dylan had potential, she blurted, then softened. I mean, we thought a job would be more stable for you. I picked up my bag. I've got nothing else to say. You ungrateful little brat, Dylan snarled. After everything this family's done for you. What did you do? I asked, turning to face him. Feed me? Keep a roof over my head? That's the bare minimum. And you made it crystal clear I didn't belong. I walked to the door. They followed, still throwing words like darts. You're making a mistake, Mom shouted behind me. I'm not, I said, and I meant it. Once I was on the highway, the calls started. Text after text. All laced with guilt and manipulation. At a rest stop, I blocked every one of them. Back in Brooklyn, I poured myself a glass of wine and watched the city lights flicker from my balcony. Sarah messaged me. Heard what went down. I'm sorry. Don't be. I typed. It was the best Christmas gift they ever gave me. Freedom. She sent back a laughing emoji. Your mom's saying you're heartless. Let her, I replied. That night, I slept better than I had in years. The next morning, my phone lit up again, but not with calls from my parents or Dylan. It was cousins, aunts, uncles I hadn't heard from in years. Your mother told us everything. How could you walk away from your family? Dylan's trying to build something meaningful. You should be helping, not turning your back. We always knew you only cared about yourself. Block, block, block. I erased them all. Every last voice that never stood up for me when it counted. Except Sarah. She called that afternoon. Jesus, Leah, she said with a long exhale. The whole family's falling apart, Sarah said. Mom's been calling everyone, telling them you're rich and refusing to help Dylan. I smirked. Good for her. She's painting you as someone who forgot where you came from. Of course she is. It's easier to deny the daughter they ignored actually made something of herself. Sarah's voice softened. I'm proud of you. Really? That means everything, I told her. You're the only one I want in my life. Are you sure you're okay cutting everyone else out? I paused. Sarah, I cut them off 8 years ago. This just made it official. That night, I met my friends at our usual wine bar in Fort Greene, worn leather boots, fairy lights strung above the bar. I told them everything. Good riddance, Lisa said. They sound toxic as hell. Think you'll miss them? Someone asked. I thought about it.
No.
I think I spent years mourning a family I never had. This just closed the chapter. I raised my glass. To chosen family. To chosen family, they echoed. As we toasted, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I flipped it to silent. 6 months later, summer drenched the city in sunlight. I sat on my balcony, coffee in hand, watching life stir below. I felt like I was finally coming out of a fog I hadn't realized I was in. Sarah still called every week, not because I asked, but because she cared. Jake's daughter was born last month, she said. Madison. That's nice, I said softly. I hoped that little girl would know the love I never had. Sarah told me Dylan and Mia were still crashing at my parents' place. The startup was all talk. Even the extended family was tired of hearing about it. My betrayal had become a family legend, the ungrateful daughter who vanished despite all their sacrifices. Meanwhile, my life had taken a turn I wouldn't trade for anything. 3 months after that Christmas, I met Ethan at a coffee shop near my office. A freelance designer with a gentle smile and a deep respect for boundaries. He understood tech and what it meant to walk away from toxic family ties. He had done it, too. Work was thriving. I'd just been promoted to lead systems architect for a major AI security integration. The raise was great, but what thrilled me more was the freedom to build something groundbreaking. My team respected me. My ideas mattered. I was finally living the life I once dreamed about, no longer stuck on some lumpy couch in my parents' basement. About a month ago, Dylan somehow got a new number and called. Hey, Leah, he said, awkward but chipper. Thought we could catch up. What do you want? I asked. No patience left. Madison should meet her aunt. Things are tight here. Mom and Dad's house needs work. You don't know how much. Doesn't matter. He blew up. I hung up, blocked him again. Sitting in my apartment, sipping coffee beside Ethan, I felt only peace. Everything they said I'd never have, love, stability, success, I built on my own terms. Sarah said they were turning my old bedroom into a nursery. It didn't sting. That room was never mine. This one is. They still tried reaching me through distant cousins and family friends. My favorite was Aunt Nora's voicemail. Family is forever, Leah. But I had already walked away. No turning back. Ethan and I are planning a trip to Japan next month. We've been learning the language, mapping temples, bookmarking noodle shops. Sarah messaged me again. Mom saw your post. Says it's typical. You'd rather vacation than help family. Good, I said. Maybe now she'll finally get it. Last week I was promoted to head of engineering, top 1% salary. My boss told me, you earned this. We celebrated with friends. Lisa joked, your mom probably sensed your bank balance went up that night. Ethan brought champagne to the balcony. Let's buy a house, I said. With space. A yard. Maybe a dog.
My phone buzzed again. Sarah.
Mom says you must be a drug dealer. I laughed. Let them spin their stories. I'm living mine. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment. Tell me what you walked away from and what peace you've built since. Your support reminds me I'm not alone. Maybe you need that reminder, too. My advice? Don't wait for permission to choose yourself. Build a life that reflects your worth, not their expectations. And if you relate, hit subscribe.